This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Welcome to Behind the Scenes, for your half-assed entertainment news with no bullshit, with our hosts, the Baroness and Bear Fiorda, only on Talk 4 Me.
Welcome to Behind the Scenes. I'm your host, the Baroness, Summer Helene, and this is Pink Panties.
And I am Bear Fiorda.
No, Pink Panties.
Why are you saying that?
Because that was my testing. It was testing. Bear wears pink panties.
That was the testing for the
audio?
audio?
That was my testing. Then I went to make fun of Bear for it and found out he was not wearing underwear. So that is an ongoing argument. I don't know why he refuses
nothing
to wear
wrong
underwear.
with that.
He never wears underwear.
No, I'm going to go back to it. Hold it. It's just they're all clothing. They're all clothing. As long as you're not nude publicly, if you're on your own space, you do you. Then that's all I have to say. There's no problem with it. No one can judge you. You are not running around the streets nude. I'm
judging you.
You don't have to. You're choosing to.
He's not wearing underwear. He doesn't wear pants when we do the show, and now he's not wearing underwear.
Listen, we can do an OnlyFans where like Bear Fiorda not wearing underwear and just me in these shorts. It's true, but it's misleading.
It is.
And I can eat more cereal.
It is. Let's not do OnlyFans. Though you did have a mate that wants to do OnlyFans.
Yes.
Shout out, by the way, Jared Bandera. He's one of my favorite people. He's funny as hell.
Former UFC fighter, great fighter. They shouldn't have dropped him for whatever reason they did.
Numbers.
Oh.
But I told him get his social media up. He'll go back to UFC. Well, he was talking about wanting to do OnlyFans with his wife. She is not down for it. But she's a smoke show. Like his wife's hot.
And here's the thing. If she was, I'm sure they'd actually do pretty good at it. But as it stands right now, she's like, if you're going to do it, oh, no, she says she can't even do it.
No, she's banned him.
She's banned him from doing it. No, not at all.
I do love
no OnlyFans content.
Yeah. He's in a timeout. Well, what's funny about it is, now she's a smoke show. She's got a great little body, and she's like got a really girl next door kind of features. She's really cute. She's got like a kind of.
I still think calling someone girl next door just sounds like an insult.
Insulting.
It sounds insulting. Now that it is insulting, this comes across like insulting. It reminds me of when someone calls you homely, you know?
No, homely means ugly.
Yeah.
So girl next door is like Natalie Portman is girl next door, and Hathaway is.
Can you please call her by her actual name?
Padme Amidala is.
Thank you.
Girl next door.
Oh man, you can never. You know,
I've never been so not attracted to a man as I was in that moment.
Do you know who also can never?
I just thought about you in pink panties. I'm just saying.
You know who else can never escape their roles? Daniel Radcliffe. He is incredible. He did a movie called Imperium where he's playing a undercover FBI agent in an Aryan Brotherhood gang.
Make sure you're following Jared Bandera.
Make sure you're following Jared Bandera. Can we go back?
He's not going to do OnlyFans. And leave Harry Potter alone.
No, I'm not. He did great. And whenever he does something in another movie, everyone just plays the joke of like, oh no, he's actually like, no, this is a wizard. Why is Harry Potter going undercover in this Aryan Brotherhood gang? What is happening?
I think my favorite with him is they're talking about doing The Cursed Child as a movie.
Yes.
And they're like, but who's going to
bring him back?
Oh no, for sure. But they're bringing back the original cast.
Yeah.
They're all the age that they're supposed to be, the parents and things now. And everyone cannot get over the fact that Harry Potter's old enough to be adult Harry Potter now.
But that's really it. And here's the thing. Everything he does, people just rip on him as if he's still Harry, which I find hilarious, by the way. It's not like he rolls with the punches well. He plays into it. You know what I'm saying? He went on an interview recently and they're like, so, well, what is it like transitioning from Harry Potter to other TV shows? It was like, well, once I accepted that I am Harry Potter, it became really easy. What do you mean you accepted Harry Potter? It's like, oh, well, I thought I was just an actor playing a wizard, but it turns out I was a wizard playing an actor.
Playing a wizard.
And playing a wizard. And he keeps that going throughout all of his other stuff. I think he did. Well, yes, he'll always be kind of like typecasted as far as acting goes. Like, oh, this will always be Harry Potter.
So I'm trying to.
He can also he knows how to play it well. Whoever's telling him how to do his stuff as far as media and public relations go, the very, very intelligent move right there. I'm so distracted by you pouring tea. Is it hot?
It is. It's nice and hot. It's a dirty chai.
Yeah.
Nice
very clearly hot. Dirty chai tea. Threw some coffee in there, it looks like.
I did. It's really good.
Okay. Well, you enjoy your tea.
Would you like a sip?
Not
it's
really,
really
no,
good.
I'm good. Okay.
It's really good. You should probably hold it or I'll spill it on your sweater.
Oh, but that's fine. It is. That's weird. It's got an odd aftertaste. I'm sorry about that. I'm sure it's very good.
It's Starbucks. It's poured into. We just heated up the Starbucks and poured it in.
Okay. Back to what we were saying earlier though. If Daniel Radcliffe did a OnlyFans, what do you think his OF name would be?
Erecto Patronus.
Oh, that's so good. That's his hashtag.
Erecto
I love
Patronus.
that.
Yeah.
He's got that's his catchphrase. He's got to say
Erecto Patronum.
Erecto Patronum. Oh,
what do you think his name would be?
So instead of the boy who lived, it's you can't really say this, but I was gonna say the boy who came, but that doesn't work. So you gotta be like the man who came or something. Don't look at me like that. Anyone can make that mistake.
Okay, Prince Andrew.
It's mean. Wait, I thought he wasn't like convicted.
No,
of doing
he
that.
wasn't.
He was like he was in the vicinity.
No.
It may have been an accident or
Can we
something.
get off Epstein Island, please?
We never were on Epstein Island. Don't
You
promote
seem
that.
to be.
No. Who's talking about Andrew?
Who's the one talking about boys?
That's not nice. Just saying. You know what? Speaking of other inappropriate things in news, what about the whole Baldoni and Blake Lively thing?
Oh, yeah, she's a bitch.
Yeah. Well, can you elaborate a little more on
So,
that?
quick shout out. So I can say this because I'm not consulting.
Okay.
Clearly, they do not have a media strategist consulting. They really do.
I'm sure they do, but they're
No.
like, no, you're not telling me what I want to hear, so you're
No,
fired.
they need a decent spin doctor. Basically, they need some emergency PR. She needs to come out. She
Yeah,
needs
they
to
do.
apologize. She tried to do what so anyone knows. She pulled the same move that Ryan Reynolds pulled with Deadpool. What he did is he took the role, he took it for less money than he should, took a producer's credit, sort of took over production, and then by Deadpool 2, he was in charge.
Yeah.
She tried to pull the same thing on this. Now, here's where the fly in the ointment. People think
The
it's
fly in the
because
ointment?
they think it's because she was trying to nail Baldoni.
Well,
And
it
Ryan
wouldn't
Reynolds got
surprise me if he
jealous.
was trying to.
If she was trying to,
yeah.
But he finds her repellent. Then she used Taylor Swift, and she basically threatened him with her super famous husband and her super famous friend. Well, of course, Taylor Swift isn't stupid. She's bailed. Like, she's out. She's not risking her career for this chick who's using her as a threat without her permission.
Yeah, I don't see where she thought this was going to go. I get it. And at first, she managed to convince enough people to believe that Baldoni's bad enough to get him to lose projects and everything. But at the end of the day, it was going to come out. The information, the texts were there.
She thought he would save. So Baldoni could have outed her ages ago. Shout out Sniffy. Thought could have outed her from the beginning.
Yeah.
But he actually covered up for her. He cared enough about the project
that he was willing to
put up with the bullshit. He and his family sat in the basement during the premiere. Like, he really put up with a lot of bull to save the project. But she pushed it too far. Once she got to sexual harassment, he was like, we're done. Here are the receipts.
Pretty much.
She didn't realize things like when she was talking about there being no sound on that dancing scene.
Mhm.
She didn't realize there was sound. Of course he recorded. And so all these things that she was saying, she didn't realize there were receipts. So she made a calculated move, a business move. She did it wrong. What she has to do now is come out and apologize. And if I was her spin doctor, I would say this: come out, say, look, I came from Hollywood. I obviously read this wrong. I started in Hollywood at a young age. I dealt with a lot of predators. Obviously, because of what's happened to me throughout my life, I've become very sensitive to it. So she's still making herself the victim, saying I'm very sensitive to it. I read Justin's intentions wrong. I want to apologize to Justin, his family, and I personally am going to make a donation to women's abuse funds. I misstepped. I misstepped in all of this. I shouldn't have been promoting my Betty Buzz, my alcohol brand, in conjunction with domestic violence, my hair products. I treated this like it was a regular film, and I wasn't. I wasn't respectful to the fans. I wasn't respectful to Baldoni. I'm sorry. And I'd like to do part 2. I'd like to do the prequel or sequel. I'd like to be a part of it. And I'd like to donate my salary to charity. If she pulls that, if she apologizes, if she blames it on her reading it wrong, not saying she did it on purpose, trying to steal a film, blames it on reading it wrong, donates her salary and steps back in, she'll win. The public back to her.
Here's the one problem with all of that and why she won't do it. Because her immediate thought is going to go, no, what I said is right. And my husband's Ryan Reynolds. So if you don't agree with me, you're not going to work in Hollywood. That's her take.
why,
That's what's going to stop her from doing any smart moves, because in her brain, she's right. Even though she knows she's lying, she's right. Why are these people not believing me? I am believable, and my husband's Ryan Reynolds.
Here's the thing: she's never been likable. She's always been a bully. She's always been problematic, and everyone covered it up. They covered it up on Gossip Girl because they wanted the show to do well.
Yeah.
They covered it up on Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. And then interviews where she's been a bitch, they've kind of shortened it and covered it. So she's always been covered for. Then when she got caught, she'd make it like she was making a joke, and she was just awkward. When she had the affair with Ryan Reynolds on Green Lantern, Scarlett Johansson didn't want to get embroiled in a scandal.
Right.
So she didn't advertise the fact that, they were divorcing because she was cheated on. It was a very similar situation to the Ariana Grande, just without the baby, meaning Blake Lively had met and talked to Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett had come to set. She played buddy with her. Then she nailed the husband in a hotel during production. So
they met on a set of a movie,
Green Lantern.
They met on Green Lantern.
Well,
what an awful movie! When your movie tanks and that's where you met your affair partner, that's just got to be the biggest red flag, like the biggest omen. You start cheating on your wife, and then your movie had a terrible return. I'm sorry, I do think that for sure that is a bad omen. You should have read into that.
I think something they should. I was looking to see if Joe Daddy was on.
Got it.
I think something they should consider is. I know everyone's thinking it's because Ryan Reynolds is jealous, right?
Right.
His wife and he started as an affair. They were both in other relationships. It's very reasonable for people to be jealous at that point, because if you start as an affair, you'll always think that the other person's going to cheat on you. That's always going to be in your head.
And that's what she seemed to be going for.
Yeah, it does seem like she might have been hitting on Baldoni, or at least looking for that attention while her husband was away shooting Wolverine.
What is it, Wolverine and Deadpool? Yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing. But then again, Jackman was cheating on his wife, and that was a shocker because they were the Hollywood standard, and he was cheating on his wife. And the woman he left his wife for, so you guys know, absolutely foul human being. Like, she was a full-on stalker. If you guys go back through her history, she orchestrated this. She got involved. Like, she is a bad
Meghan Markle level of planning
full-on
there.
Meghan Markle planning. Like, it was amazing, impressive, really. So, bless Jackman's wife. I hope she does well without him. She deserved better. But there's no good segue, because
there's no good segue.
What is it? From terrible men to wonderful men. I'd like to welcome to the show Joe Daddy Stevenson, the nicest guy in MMA.
Good day, everyone.
Good day. Oh,
yeah. It was out of
a kitty. Where did you find?
Awesome.
Hi. Oh, that is a pretty baby.
His name is Leroy.
Hi, Leroy.
He eats raw meat and regular hard food, and is spoiled.
That
I believe it.
Is that a Sphinx?
Yeah, it's a hairless Sphinx.
Oh my God. That is so cute. I love Sphinx.
I feel like he's really dirty right now, so I probably shouldn't let him on my lap, but this is the bedroom, and the bedroom is his domain. So
That's his
can't
domain.
Really, I can't. If I push him away, he'd just start walking in and bumping into the phone.
He's
do whatever he needs to do to get your attention.
Yeah, it's all right. He's a very welcome guest. How long have you had Leroy?
7 years.
Oh,
yeah. He was the runt of the litter, and the Sphinx cats, they feel like velvet. Like, I guess that's a nice way to describe them. And they even get some hair. Like, he had a little bit of winter, like, fuzz that came over certain areas that's gone now. And they are supposed to, most of, like, these cats have to be, like, oiled almost because their skin, he doesn't require that. There's something special about him. You have to bathe them a lot because they lose, like, toes and fingers because they can get dirty easy, I guess. But he doesn't really fall into that category. He he feels like he's a lion. He's ran one time when we took him outside to see a horse, so we've never let him outside again. He
That makes
doesn't.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he thinks that he is like this beast, like a leopard or a panther, and to dogs he'll treat them like that. And um, it is really cool to see him develop, like, and now he's like older. I think cats like age, not like dogs. Kind of dogs are like every 7 years or something, but
Yeah.
cats are a little bit older. I feel we give him nothing but like really clean water and lots of love. They say that their cat purrs are supposed to be a frequency to help you like heal.
Yeah.
He purrs so much every day of his life
That's
because
deep.
of how much attention he gets. So he's probably healed. And then a lot of times he'll jump on you and purr. And he does that like every night.
For you.
Man,
I love that.
that is
It's
fantastic.
there's an old saying. It's dogs look at people and people feed them, they clean up their poop, they walk them, and dogs will look at a person and go, they must be God. A cat looks at you and goes, he feeds me, he walks me, he changes my litter, I must be God.
Oh yeah.
You can see why the Egyptians worship them. Like he looks so, he just the way
Very
he's sitting
regal.
there. Yeah, he looks so regal. That's exactly
I
it.
believe some of the Egyptians actually even lost wars and battles because
Cats
the
were
threat of the cats being murdered and killed.
Yep.
That's
Yep,
crazy.
that is true.
That is true.
I can't remember which invading army
yeah,
did it. They
it-
strapped cats to their
to
forward
their
shields,
and the
and they
the
got 'em
Egyptians
to
were like, nope.
capitulate because of
You
that.
win
They
this
did.
one.
Speaking of wars, but more on the individual standpoint, you've been in combat sports now for years, coaching, fighting. What's kind of like the background? What got you started
How'd
in
you
that?
get into that? I'm just stuck on the cat. I'm sorry. I was like,
I
I
know.
want his cat.
I started fighting after watching wrestlers from my local area compete, like Dan Henderson, and I was like, man, I'd like to test myself. I was already doing like judo, jiu-jitsu, and wrestling. And so I stepped into my very first professional fight at the age of 16. It was at in a Norco Eastvale area down off the 15 at what used to be a driving range. Now it's soccer fields. I had on the very same card fighters like Carl Parisian, my friend Nick Laquette and Victor Hudsinger, and a bunch of really tough guys competing. Gene LaBelle was my referee, and it was a really amazing experience. I wanted to see if I was any good at it. I think you have to understand what you're doing it for. You have to define why you are training, and you got to use competition as a measuring stick, not only just for you, but also for real life application. Like if I'm training martial arts to defend myself and people I love, what happens when it really happens? And the more times you put yourself in those situations, the easier it is to react properly. And it's easier on the street to fight because you're not fighting somebody that's trained to kick your butt, not watching tape on you and checking out your flaws. And so that's what kind of happened to me was I wanted to see where I fit in the pecking order and see how everything panned out. And then after learning that I was okay at it, I think I won my first 2 fights, and then I lost my next 2 fights. I had lost to Jens Pulver, who would go on to win the belt that next year in the UFC. And I lost to Pat Miletich, who had just fought and lost for the belt in the UFC. And then I started my senior year.
Wow. I'm like, that's.
Is there a
That's
reason why you jumped
absurd.
right into pro? Did they not have an amateur division back at the time? It was just you
Yeah,
fought.
in the 90s, there was no amateur division. And on top of that, I think I had a bad coach, and not necessarily bad technique, but he wasn't equipped at the time because he was still learning. It's difficult he was also training and fighting in the UFC. He had 2 fights. And when you do that, it's difficult to train and coach others. And when you're learning, you're trying things out on your students. And he was just not as experienced. And back in the day, it was more or less honestly about measuring yourself. There was no really protecting your record and trying to be undefeated. There was, if you're undefeated, you weren't fighting the right people. Whereas now, if you're undefeated, you're considered like the pound for pound. It's really arguable to say just because you're undefeated that you're one of the best of all time.
It's strategic. They did that with that guy from the wrestler, the one that wrestled the bear. They were so strategic in how they did it.
What do you mean, Habib?
Habib.
Well,
they were really strategic in where they put him.
I just saw an interview from Tony Ferguson where he was like, he had said, Khabib's teammate had saw him training and how on point he was, and Khabib pulled out. That's why Khabib pulled out of the fight when he said he had to go to the hospital the night before. Very well could be true. Difficult to say. Things are theories until they're proven correct.
Sure.
And at that point in somebody's career, you've already invested so much, you don't really want to. Risk and reward is a big part of that. But, we'll never know. I mean, Khabib has to live with himself, and Tony has to live with himself. The trick is to do the right thing for the right reason. So in the end, you can live with yourself and you don't have to mask it with anything.
True. I think
that is a very good
people
point.
get into doing it for different reasons. Like Bear, when he got in, he knew nothing about MMA, threw himself in cage fights and couldn't even win a cage fight till he found you. So
But he won that fight because he realized what he was fighting for. And when you have purpose, it's easier not only to train and endure, but it's easier to fight. You don't on the street, somebody goes to hurt your loved one. If somebody went to hurt Kimberly in front of you, you're not going to hesitate, but then you start thinking about it and the anticipation, and you could add a lot of contributing factors such as like all the processed food and chemicals and the way our body feels, and the devil attacking us and all these different emotions, and then having to compete, where it's a little easier when you're like, oh, he's trying to do this, I need to stop him. That's an easier choice.
Well, agreed. I think I find it interesting kind of where you came from. You went straight to pro. The way he started was he just threw himself into fights because reasons. I don't know why. He just did one day.
And then hindsight's always 2020 though. Like, if I could go back, of course everyone would be like, oh, I would rather go to this show, rather met him back in 26 like you
rather
coach
than
instead of just jumping into it. But they make you who you are at the end of the day.
Agreed. But now, because these guys are starting, and I know Joe trains them, very, very young with MMA. It's not like it used to be where people are just kind of coming out. MMA has become its own sport. It's going into the Olympics. It's doing all of this.
Right.
What do you think about the evolution of MMA in the last 20 years or so?
I think that the last 20 years, it's been remarkable growth. I think MMA has existed prior. When you look at Muhammad Ali fighting that Japanese fighter, what is his name? He used to slap people.
Yeah.
I forget his name. I feel so bad because he's just an amazing fighter. But he was a wrestler. And I mean, if you think about catch wrestling, pancration was in the Olympics, in the ancient Olympics. There are so many mixed martial arts has been around. Think about Kung Fu Sansu, where it is a form of many martial arts and taking the fight where it goes. Think of Jeet Kune Do, all of these factors. But for the application of the sport being developed so early, I think it's still in its infancy. Like, it's nowhere near professional football, baseball, basketball, or even soccer. It's treated like a prize fighting, which is horrible, because when you're there, like, I get wanting to be entertained, but on one hand, there's entertainment, and on the other hand, there's the purity of the sport. And to say oh, I want to watch him fight him is great, but that should have nothing to do with that guy's the best. Now, if you're the best and you're fighting him and he's considered the best, then yes. But if it's an entertainment purpose, oh, well, it's not going to draw in the right numbers. I almost think there should be, I pray for it to be in the Olympics, whereas if the IOC does pick it up, which they're in negotiations with, or not negotiations, they're in the procedures of like auditing. If it is picked up in the Olympics, who's to say the Olympics have it as an amateur sport? You have professional basketball and players playing on the basketball team. Who's not to say they won't use professional boxers? And at that point, rejuvenate the sport into a real pure sport again, because you're trying, unless people try to lock you in contracts for winning things like that. There's so many things that are variables. So do I think it's grown exponentially? Absolutely, especially since the 90s. Rules, regulations, commissions, they have much more experience. The more experience you have with something, the easier it is to deal with it. The job of a parent is to teach their child what worked and what didn't work, and the whys and the ins and the outs, so that they go through life easier. But with that, you also have, hard times make strong men make good times make weak men. And so you're going to have that. And if you forget, what got you there, and if you don't have a standard and things like that, so difficult to say. That's a really good question, Summer. Like, I think it's great. I think it's continuing to grow. I think it will continue to grow. I think there are a lot of forces all around it. I want to see the purity of the sport. I want it to be the same way it was to me when I first started, which was, I want to fight him to see who's better. I want to be the best. I want to be I want to be the best by taking the easiest path. But I also understand that, I have certain fighters that now, they're not developed ready. Who is to say, if people are honest and just like, no, that guy would beat you right now, you're not ready for that fight, we're going to pass. That is way better than saying, it's a conflict of interest, it's not going to work, we trained together this one time. There's so many different variables. When I talk matchmakers,
without the bull. When I talk
about matchmaker, I'm like, no, that guy's like 70% going to beat my guy. You got to be up front, and you got to be like, that's a bad stylistic match. People trying to hide information, or like not put their whole like successful career. Think about this. I've got kids that train, anywhere from 8 to 9 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week, that are homeschooled, that are developing to compete and fight. And it's going to be very difficult to find them fights, unless the IOC and IMAF are able to work something out, and it just gets big, and you find other equal young developed people with the same experience to compete on a world stage. Whereas right now it's like, oh, well, I got this 36-year-old. Well, there's a difference in strength there. That guy has grown man strength, and
little bit.
Right.
Like, good God, a little bit. That's awful.
But sometimes you have those kids that are able to step up and perform in those circumstances. Michael's one of them that he did a great job. But that was a special circumstance. His father was passing away with ALS, and we allowed him to compete at the age of 15 against a grown man that was 19, but luckily not fully grown Marine.
Right.
So that his dad would be able to see what he's capable of. And then Michael has to go through 2 knee surgeries through high school wrestling. We all have these remarkable stories, and it's at the end, you're told it's the journey, and you realize at the end, and only at the end, truly, like, wow, look at the people that I met in my life. Look at the experience I got to share with these people. Look at the just the amazing times that I have and where this has taken me. And if your journey has been all about like just, oh, I want to be the best, but I want to do it this way and sneakily, I would assume that it's difficult to sleep at night. And if it's not difficult to sleep at night, it probably will be one day.
I
Yeah, makes
think I
sense.
think because you are a man of integrity, you assume integrity in others. And while I respect that about you, I don't think most people have as much integrity as you. I honestly don't. I think you are a very rare exception. You have a great deal of integrity and kindness. I really do admire that.
I
Now,
think 60 or 70% of people don't have an inner monologue. And I wonder if
what?
that yeah. So like, you know how you actually
The
think,
the boy, yeah.
Right.
it's something that I think the number is 60 to 50 percent of people don't have like an inner monologue. And to me, that could be definitely, a sign of times, or like,
Yeah.
having your brain fried through radio waves or EMF or all of these
I mean,
crazy
that's insane. Hang.
um
That's insane.
yeah, so to not have an inner monologue, I think consciousness and goes hand in hand,
In a monologue.
so I think you're right. I understand that. But out of the people that do have a monologue, they have to constantly choose right or wrong.
One
Right.
in 3 people have an inner monologue. It used to be 80%. So 100 years ago, it was 80% of people. Now it's 1 in 3. So it's
One,
getting worse over time. 1 in 3 have an inner monologue.
oh yeah, so that's
That's
but that's good.
wow.
Like, you want to be that 1/3. if you're
Yeah.
if
That
you're that
makes sense.
1/3, you're doing some things right.
You know, we talked a lot about
That's
the kids
insane.
and the next generation. What is it like for you as the person guiding them? What is it like to watch them kind of go through the
Can you
trials and
make them? Well, I want to
tribulations
know. Can you
too?
make them have an inner monologue? Because apparently he's right. It does have to do with morality. Sorry, I'm I'm gonna get off Google.
To
I think
watch these kids grow.
it's my responsibility to be the leader, like Greg Jackson is. He's out there doing the workouts with the guys, helping push, leading by example. Are you a leader, or are you a boss? You need to be an inspiration to the children to really get them to develop properly. And you need to be there when they don't have somebody to be there. And that's our job. The gym becomes a very safe environment to help develop children through transitional stages, to have to go through real life experiences in the safest environment possible, where you can still call in both parents and talk between two kids and say, he said this, she said that, that's not right, let's work something out, let's have everyone understand. So you get to develop in a very safe environment, with real life experiences, with lower consequences because of it. And I love it. I love it's what, 28 degrees the other day,
Yeah.
and I'm in the gym 6 a.m. and I got 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds on the mat. You can see your breath, and they're doing front handsprings and walking on their hands because they're chasing their dreams, and they're developing. My son Max, he's ranked 22nd or 24th in the state now, and I think he's going to do better than that when he gets to the state championships. But there's over like 1,500 schools that he represents that in the state of California. And Matt Frankie just won the state championships. As they've gotten older, they're reaching these new levels that I never reached. I never became a state champion. I took second in state. I lost to the national champion. It was tough. Ryan Halsey, great guy, great athlete, and I would just run into him at Greco State and Freestyle State. But that made me who I am today. And luckily, me putting my kids through those experiences at a younger age and helping guide them, now they're able to get on top of the podium. I was reading a newspaper article, and the newspaper article interviewed Frankie after when he won the state championships. And it said, what did you think standing on the first place podium? His first thing was, it was the second time in my whole life standing on the first place podium for wrestling.
That's wonderful.
Right.
Yeah.
And he goes, I know that all those other times that I was putting myself, because we always, always made him bump up. Like once he won a division, I made him go up to the next division. So instead of holding him back and allowing him to like be the best at the bottom,
Dominate. Yeah.
Right.
I pushed him up. He didn't win a match for a year and a half. And he had such the right attitude and mentality in that position that he was able to develop into a state champion.
Oh, I think we froze a little bit.
Full ride scholarships. He's decided to turn them down and wrestle one more year in JUCO and then go. They're to get that experience. Now that's my kids. I get to do this for other kids like Michael, whose brother and sister and mom like have had to go through some tough things, and I get to help inspire them and help them with their choices and decisions. Or the Velardes, to be there with them. I just promoted my youngest ever blue belt, which was Roman Velarde, yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was really cool.
You are who inspires these kids. You inspire Bear. You're who he looks up to. You're who these kids look up to. Who inspires you? Who do you think is, kind of the top at MMA? Who did you look up to?
Well, it's being blessed by Jesus Christ. Like honestly, like being, my dad was bipolar schizophrenic and out of the picture for a long bit. And I had many bad stepdads that were in my life, trying to do crazy things with my mom and drugs, strip searched as a kid before going to school, and accused of many horrible, crazy things. And but yet the head of the school board for Hesperia, Mr. Olney, this is last year, he was my first 6th grade teacher for homeroom, and he inspired me. He's like, one day I'm going to be this. And then my wrestling coach that ended up marrying my mom, and he helped push and guide me. My next door neighbor, Brian Kitchens, like Mr. Wilson, who's I get the opportunity to coach over the summer when he comes in now, and he's the athletic director at Atlanta. And his son, joined the Marines just like my son did, and acing the ASVAB, all these just remarkable things that I think the beauty is in what God has put in my life. And to get into those beauties, the beautiful parts, you have to learn to appreciate the hard times, the bad times. I don't get sad when somebody passes away anymore. I smile, and I have an understanding that it's, meant to be legitimately, and it is what it is, and to move forward. And having that outlook and understanding, the same spot in your brain that fear and anxiety come from is the same spot that joy, happiness, and love, and that, two thoughts can't occupy one space, learning.
Yeah.
That. So making it a choice to push through.
Yeah, I can see
on
that.
Instagram or on YouTube Shorts, I've learned a lot about a little, but I've been able to absorb the things that seem super important, like that last fact, or the current fact of the people that make it through, Navy SEALs training is the person, not like the star athlete. It's the person that's sitting there trying to help you make it through, saying we can together.
Yeah.
And just thinking, well, wait a minute, that means he has to have gratitude in his brain and his mind, and that helps push him through,
So it's an attitude of gratitude.
Really?
You have to. You have to be that person, because it's difficult. I've coached many men, many kids, and when you coach them from a good place in their head, they can pull off that win in the last second of the fight after 15 minutes. But if you coach them from a negative place and they've been getting beat up, rarely will you see them pull off that win in the end, because they're so toxic and septic from all of that negativity.
Well, that I will say is something that one of the biggest problems Bear had when you got him has been the stage fright and all of that. And that actually came from a coach before you. And so you really kind of hit that nail on the head. That came from being, I'm not going to say whose gym because it wasn't the gym owner's fault, but it was at the other gym. And it was dealing with this one specific coach that really messed him up. And then you getting his head to a better place really did make a difference.
Very much so. I was curious as you're talking about the experiences in going through cage, especially with the people who get coached from a negative place and they can't really pull off that win. When you are coaching someone through a fight or in their training, what is your goal with them in the cage? Are you as concerned that they win at all costs? Are you concerned that they have the experience? What are you trying to get them to get out of that experience?
Well, if I know what your purpose is, if you tell me what you're fighting for, I can help you prepare to fight better for that goal. So if winning the match is a direct reflection of the end goal, there's a lot of importance on that. But if your end goal is, to help others or to achieve this, then winning the match isn't as important as people think. It's a big step, and every fight's as important as your last fight, and your next fight is your most important fight because that defines you, and that's what people are going to remember. Well, if it's not true, if you know what you're fighting for, if you're truly fighting for certain reasons, you could lose 1 million fights amateur and be undefeated pro. You could, when it clicks, it finally clicks, and watching it click on people is my the favorite thing to do. Watching it click. You're not my first fighter that I've ever had that has had stage fright or performance anxiety, and
Right.
you won't be the last. It's difficult to undo things that have happened to people, like when you're in a bad relationship and you like want to check each other's phones and you're doing all that. And then you get in a good relationship and, you find yourself feeling these feelings again for a little bit. And you're like, wait, no. I was traumatized. I was in a bad place. Get out of me. You have to recognize. And you have to tell yourself these things because, sometimes these thoughts are coming from other places into your head and it's not warranted. The person you're with doesn't deserve to be brought through with the last person you were with. Has no bearing. They're not the same at all. So why?
I love that. I do want to say, please go make sure you are following Joe on social media. We're getting towards the end of the show. We have about 10 minutes left. I want you guys to go follow him. We are going to put up a link. If you follow Bear, I promise you will love Joe. Bear worships Joe. It's kind of creepy. Just saying. But go follow Joe, please. Where would you like them to follow you?
I don't know, really. I guess they could do it on Instagram, Joe Daddy 1982, I think, or it's Joe Stevenson 1982.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have.
I'll put up his link.
Yeah, I think there's a Twitter, but I don't really use it. I just say I like tacos on it, and I use all my platforms to help people that need help. If there's a funeral or if there's a wedding or somebody needs celebration, I just try to share that. We have YouTube channels that we have free technique on that when people come to the gym, it's easy to say, hey, you need to watch these videos. It'll help you catch up on where we're at. And so that's a very, very symbiotic relationship to have with YouTube and new students. And all of those things are free and they help develop, I wish I had the time to do everything right. And the moment I realized that I have to stop and not say, well, this has to be done perfect, then I was able to get more things done. And I stopped freezing and I was able to say, well, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to be weird. It's going to have
I'm sorry. I'm dying to that is the grail. Sorry. It's like one of the toughest men in the world. And you just see the kitty rubbing on that. He's
jealous that you guys and he doesn't have it.
As a cat does, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love that. I love how the kitty loves you. Sorry, got sidetracked. I do agree with you, though. It's realizing that you don't have to do 100% of everything perfectly. It's doing the best you can everywhere versus perfect.
That's really important. If I could say about doing it with the right intentions, though, sometimes can be wrong. Like, I was doing it the right way, and you're still going to have bad results. Like, just in life, that's going to happen, and not dwelling on that, but saying, okay, well, how do we fix it for next time? It wasn't on purpose, it wasn't intentional, so how do we fix that and make sure it doesn't happen?
That makes sense.
I like that.
I think one of the biggest things I'm curious about whenever I listen to you coach your examples to people is, what if that person really isn't in that mindset? They hear you, they take that information, but when you watch them computer trained, they're not necessarily applying it.
Do you want to punch your students?
No, well,
it's been much.
I'm just saying.
Class. If I have a big class, I have to. Am I picking one student out? Isn't that favoritism? If I have a small class, am I teaching different? Am I articulating more? Is time less of a thing? Can I give more direction? When I watch a class, I'm honestly just making sure that no one's going to get injured. I'm not going to critique technique, because that's why when I articulate it and demonstrate it, I try to do such a thorough job. And then I watch and make sure people, when you've got 40 people in a class, more important is the fact they can go feed their family, or they can go to school. And so you cause and effect, a private lesson. I gave private lessons to this guy named Stryker for 3 months. He went and competed and took second at the Worlds in jiu-jitsu. And he was hoping I would give him his blue belt for that. But I just gave him 4 stripes. I said, I told you I would give it to you if you won. Because 3 months is a short period of time.
Yeah.
I got great results with him. I give privates to kids that get good grades at the gym for free. So I don't have any free time. And, I don't like doing private lessons, but it's private lessons. Like, you can't get the same out of one. There's the difference is, like, one private lesson is like, what are we going to work on? What can we improve right now? Or wait, I want to do a bunch of private lessons to develop. And that's way different. And then you bring that into a class setting, it's so difficult to get the same development you'd get out of a one-on-one small class. That's why I love it when Bear comes in the morning, because I'll focus on him as an adult, because we'll have a lot of kids, and then they're all playing catch up with him. Whereas at night there's a lot of adults, so it's difficult to get that attention. But every circumstance has its benefits and its downfalls.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that, because I haven't even told my family yet. Recent events are going to cause me to change my schedule again, to where I'm going to have to add back my mornings and my evenings full days. Because very soon I won't be able to attend Fridays anymore with this year class. So I need to find other ways to get in that time with you there. The
Bear is Joe Daddy's biggest stalker, just so you guys know.
Why do you make it really worse creepy every time?
I'm going creepy with this. No, I think that's fantastic. I love that you're always trying to get that time. How important the time that people put in, I think, makes a difference on anything. It's like who you associate with the time you put in. Right.
10,000 hours to master something is 10, 20 hours to feel comfortable. The faster you put that 20 hours of development in, the more comfortable you'll be, and the more likelihood you'll stick around for that 10,000.
That makes sense. I do want to ask something real quick, because
we're getting to the end, so I do want it. So come on,
right, go ahead.
If you can give one piece of advice, a lot of the people that watch this, they're huge MMA fans. If you could give one piece of advice to everyone watching, what would you give them? What would you tell them?
Not everyone that is telling you good stuff have good intentions for you, and not everyone that is telling you bad stuff has bad intentions for you. And don't believe the hype.
I like that.
I like that. Especially
That's
don't
really
buy
good.
into your own hype.
Yeah, never buy your own hype. It's like getting high on your own supply. You don't do that.
Very much
Just
so.
never buy your hype. Well, especially now, you look at social media has become such an integral part of anything. It's the guys with
very
the
easy
following, not
to
the most
fall
talented
into it,
guys
yeah.
that get ahead. So if you buy your own hype,
Watching a lot of Breaking Bad. You're correct. Getting high.
I like
perfect.
that. Yeah.
It's perfect. Now you can ask your question as long as they know. Go follow Joe. We've got the advice that way. If we run,
Well,
we're
it was
okay.
a bit selfish. It's about coaching because you said something interesting, which is you're not really as concerned with correcting people, even if they are making mistakes. It's more so like, I don't want you to get hurt. Do you find that's better for their journey through martial arts, progressing and getting better than if you were standing there kind of correcting the minute details?
My oldest competing student is Easy, 66 years old,
Oh
competed
wow!
against 40-year-olds, at a Naga tournament. My
Yeah.
oldest students, I have 2 students that are 72 that are active in classes. My youngest, I'll have kids in my adult classes. I think that every circumstance is going to be different, and I think that each person on their own journey is a different thing required for everyone's fork that comes in the road is going to happen at a different timeline, different time. And is it always I need to watch out for the safety of everyone? Almost yes, with a large class, but the whole thing is with the small class, it's pretty easy to watch the safety and you get to watch the technique. The benefits of that are great, but not being able to test yourself against other body types, styles, and stuff that holds you back. I mean,
That makes sense.
Yeah,
you
it
have a
does.
flow chart, and it'd be like, well, if he does this, I do this. But then if he does this, I do that. So it's infinite when it comes to everyone's own development. I think for a standard, safety needs to be considered first because you need to be able to do it again. And integrity and character. Because you can teach anyone how to punch somebody or how to choke somebody, but without morality, you're gonna lack it in the end.
That makes sense.
I can say that. Now he's talking about 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds in his class. We had bird flu. We got reported to the CDC for like 2 weeks. That's why he didn't come in. And I'm like, they called the CDC on us because it's all over Palm Springs, and he was one of the
Why
few
they're
cases of
murdering
bird
chickens
flu
by the millions. Why my eggs
yeah.
are $10 a pack?
So he got bird flu. I'm now like, and he was like really wanting to go into class, and he's like, I can't. And I was like, I'm sure it'll be fine. Now I get it. No, I agree. You're right. Do not give elderly people bird flu.
Generally speaking, is a good plan.
Right.
It's the elderly, if they have compromised immune systems, is one thing. But I mean, also if you've been raised your whole life like a wrestler, where like if you're sick, you go to practice, you sweat it out, and you build up a natural herd immunity, you're not really nervous about that.
That makes sense.
Fair enough.
Makes sense. I can't believe they reported us to see.
That's okay. But
So-
anyways,
We are at the end of the show. We have about 2 minutes left. I'm going to say thank you to our special guest, Leroy, and his pet human, Joe, for coming on the show. I'm sorry, he stole the show. Joe, is there anything you want to say to everyone out there?
The
I love
national
you.
championships for youth MMA, I believe it's going to be the 25th and 26th of April in where is that? Carlsbad, California. It'll be to make the United States team and compete in Abu Dhabi for the IMAF World Championships.
I like that.
So I guess that's a cool thing to throw down there.
I
Love
like that. So you guys know, this is a secret. Nobody knows. We're actually negotiating with the King of Nigeria for Joe to go out there and fight Cowboy Cerrone, who we've been talking to about that, but nobody knows. It's a secret. So don't tell. And so
I'll have to find some time.
yeah, you have to find a little time in between. What is it? Dealing with the Olympics, dealing with internationals, you are the busiest man I have ever met.
Yeah, this week has been very different, but every week is kind of fun that way.
that makes sense.
I like that. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I do want to say, guys, Joe runs Cobra Kai in Victorville. Go follow them. check it out. And if you are anywhere around there, go in for a class. It is one of the most amazing places. These are incredible people. It's a positive vibe. It's a great way to feel. But more than anything, the people there are incredible.
It's extremely rewarding.
I like that.
Thank you for having me, Summer. Thank you, Jared. I can't wait to see you. Am I going to see you tonight at sparring?
I won't make it tonight, sparring. We're going to work in Los Angeles.
Well, I will see you next week, my friend.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. How do you exit the thing?
I always love doing that. I love Joe. So I got to tell you,
you kidding
his
me?
coach is one of my favorite people. And if I didn't like his girlfriend so much, I'd leave you for him. What? I'm kidding.
That's assuming a lot on his end, though, too.
No, his girlfriend's a smoke show. I will say that. Make sure you guys are following Joe. I'm joking about all of this. Joe is one of my favorite people. He is one of the most selfless, kind people I've ever met. I know all of my joking about Bear, I understand why Bear cares so much for Joe.
Yeah.
Because Joe cares so much for everybody else.
And that's how it works. If you give unto the world will give unto you. May not be in that moment. It's not an instant gratification thing. You have to be that kind of person, which he is. He's just that nice of a person.
He does. He changes the world. So it looks like MMA is going to be in 2028 in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Joe's
they're in talks
be involved.
and they're working out like
for that.
details of how
nobody
to make it
knows
work.
that either, or about him fighting for the king. So nobody knows any of that except you guys now. But I will say, follow Joe. He is absolutely incredible. And I think the entire future of the sport is going to be about Joe.
Probably,
I know
yeah,
that sounds
no, it makes sense.
that
it's where you put yourself.
It is. And I think the future of the sport, Joe is writing the rules. Joe is the one, dealing with I really think if you want to see where the future of MMA is, look at Joe Daddy. I'm just saying, he's the daddy of the sport.
All right, everyone.
What is it? Joe Daddy of MMA, Stevenson?
We'll think of it later.
He's
we need a better tagline.
Yeah, we need a better tagline than that. All right, I am the Baroness Summer Helene, and this is my co-host, Pink Panties Fiorda.
I forgot about that. It's Bear Fiorda. Don't go look. If you look at that ad on Instagram or wherever, you won't find what you want.
I bet you $5 they can find a bear in pink panties, especially in Palm Springs.
Not this one. Thank you all for joining us today. Say your thing.
Thank you very much for joining us. This is Behind the Scenes. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
This has been Behind the Scenes with the Baroness and Bear Fiorda. Only on Talk 4 Media.